Welcome to Lou TV, where the hosts know nothing about tomorrow's football. Zach just doesn't even realize we're talking about tomorrow's football. And Andrew has been MIA, and he just got back. What did you just get back from, Andrew, that has been keeping you busy?
Dude, I made the mistake of actually taking grad school classes, and they're taking too much time up in my life.
Yeah, the fact that you're in grad school is disappointing. Really upset with that.
I should focus on my main career here at Lou TV.
You should just go professional, DFS.
Not argue.
Aren't you engaged? What would your fiance say about that if you did that?
She's down with the whole college fantasy football, man. I think she's on board if we can actually make something happen.
How much do you play a weekend of money wise?
I don't know, man. I got a decent bankroll going right now, so I
Like
don't.
if you played like $1,000 tomorrow.
I don't think I'd feel too comfortable having to tell her about that if I dropped all 1,000.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't even have a girlfriend, and I'd be freaking out. Anyways, so what we are going to talk about today, Zach, is the football slates that we have on the 6th. That is Saturday, tomorrow, aka some sweet primetime games and some sweet complete degenerate games like Air Force and Wyoming. Oh my God, we're talking Air Force Wyoming today. That is insane. Colorado State Boise and such like that. So tomorrow's prime time. Just from the standpoint of looking at it like pure entertainment value, how awesome is tomorrow night going to be, Zach?
It's gonna be pretty damn cool. I mean, honestly, like I was looking through the schedule earlier this week, and like there's a bunch of games that definitely aren't great games, but then there's some really good games. You got, I guess, the afternoon. I guess you got USC Stanford, but you're probably talking more about Michigan State, Oregon. That game has that's a playoff matchup that we want to see early in the season. And I hope that a lot of these teams start doing now that this 4-team playoff is in place, that they may have to play games like this to maybe, even if you lose, like if you have a good showing, you might still get some clout to get into that playoff. And then, of course, you've got Ohio State, Virginia Tech, which really, I think the Buckeyes are in trouble.
Oh, yeah. You sweet spot with me.
And I'm not just saying that because of you. I really think the Buckeyes are in trouble. If they come out like they played against Navy, they're in trouble. I don't know if Virginia Tech can score a lot of points, but I think they can hold Ohio State at bay.
Dude, it's going to be such a struggle that like to score any points.
Yeah.
That it's going to be awesome. Spread is like 10 or 11 or whatever it is.
I'd take Virginia Tech with the points all day.
Yeah, all day. Just because it's going to be such a low-scoring game, you'd think that would be an easy one. Just
Yeah.
an awesome slate of games, man. I'm just jacked up that I work till 5 o'clock, so I miss all the early stuff, which is not that bad this weekend because Saturday's early games are pretty weak, which we already kind of discussed. But anyways, to get into the action, we have 4 games in the first slate, 4 games in the last slate. This first one, BYU in Texas. To start us off here, we have high-priced Taysom Hill. We have Tyrone Swoopty Swoop. What's his price? Anybody know real quick?
On what? Elite?
Yeah. Is he on Elite?
He's minimum.
I just passed over him. So we have complete opposites here. What do you think about these two quarterbacks, Andrew?
So I think that this slate is largely dictated by the defenses on it more so than a lot of slates that we've tackled in the past. Like up to this point in the college football season, I know it's only been 1 week, but you haven't really had to avoid players just because they've been going up against big time defenses. But this slate definitely, I think, kind of brings that into play a little more. Even though Tyrone Swoops his minimum salary, I don't see how you can roll him out there. I'm not really expecting much out of him whatsoever.
Really?
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with him, man. I'm even afraid to touch Taysom Hill in that game, especially at $30K.
Oh, I'm 100% not touching Taysom Hill.
Like, I mean, I know we're talking daily, but in my dynasty league, I've got him, and I'm just like I've been wavering on whether to play him or not. Like I have no idea.
I think you play him in like a dynasty or season league, just
And I'm
because.
going. I think I'm going to. It's just I don't like people want to see that 300 yards rushing again, and I don't think Charlie Strong lets that happen.
Well, I mean, I was like, Taysom Hill was my number one guy last week, by far number one. So I was super high on him. I'm not very high on him at all. Texas's defense seems to be better.
Yeah.
Jamal Williams is back, correct?
Yes.
So his numbers without Jamal or with Jamal Williams were not nearly as impressive as that one game without him, where he was just so great on the ground. And sure, that game against Texas last year, but this is a better team.
So I think the question that this pricing and the slate begs is if you're gonna go big at quarterback, is it Taysom or is it Mariota? They're priced basically the exact same.
I'm going Mariota, man. I think that game's higher scoring than people think it's gonna be. I think Michigan State can score with Oregon.
Dude.
Yeah, Zach. When we talked earlier this week on your site, you kind of sold me on the whole idea of Oregon. If they're going to be in this game, they're going to have to throw, and Mariota could have some success through the air against Michigan State. I'm on board there.
You saw what they did with Byron Marshall. I know it was against South Dakota, but they threw him the ball 4 or 5 times before he even got a carry. So they're obviously trying to get these guys out in space. I said this earlier this week too, and I think that's their formula to beating a team like Michigan State or Stanford. They can't run between the tackles like they want to and everybody else, or try to beat people around the edge. Like it's not going to happen against a good defense like that.
All right, so I want to bring up one thing with this Tyson swoopty swoop thing. Okay. Did you see how UConn did passing against BYU?
Yeah, it was hit or miss.
Bro, they threw for 280 yards though.
Oh, and I guess you got a point, but this guy's not a pure quarterback. He's a runner more than he is a passer.
I know, but is Casey Cochran a passer?
More so than a runner.
Yeah, but he's not. But he's not a good passer. Is my point. I'm not gonna go out and pick when Kenny Hill was 5K, it was easy. When Anu Solomon was 5K, it was easy. First 2 picks, he's gone. But I think if this was a situation where you needed salary cap to fit a Mariota in there, I'd 100% be fine with using swoops.
Oh, I guess that's plausible. I mean, because there's really not another option. I mean, where are you going to go if you take Mariota? The cheapest guy that's going to be starting is what, Kevin Hogan?
Which I like Kevin Hogan as well.
Yeah, he's 14, almost 14.5. So, that's a big difference from 14.5 to 5K. So I guess I would maybe take that gamble and put swoops out there with Mariota.
So I'm trying to see how some of these other running quarterbacks did last year against BYU. See, Travis Wilson didn't do that well. He threw all right. But anyways, let's get back on topic. Sorry, guys. What about running back situation? Texas, are we still sticking Malcolm Brown? Are we thinking, is BYU's run defense going to stop a Malcolm Bray, Jonathan Gray type attack, or would you kind of just say screw it and just avoid the running backs altogether in this game? I guess you could go Jamal Williams as well if you were thinking that too.
I don't know. I think they're going to have to lean on those running backs with a new quarterback. I mean, they've got the experience in the backfield. Why not use it?
Their pricing's reasonable enough on the slate too, where it's not like it's 16 G's and it's gonna really hurt you if they just have a decent game. Like you gotta expect between those two guys, there's 40 carries in that game, which for 12K and 8K respectively, that seems like more than enough value to me.
Let me ask you this though: would you rather have Langford at 12.8 or Malcolm Brown at 12.3?
Langford.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd rather have Langford, but I also think that I'm also down on Langford in general this season. So,
Langford, it's tough to compare them because I think they go at different parts in the elite draft. Like Langford's insane value at 12, right? Whereas Malcolm Brown and Jonathan Gray might be around a little later.
Yeah.
All right, so Langford. If you were picking one, you'd go Langford over Brown, correct? Can we all agree on that, really quick?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
would.
Yeah. All right. So, what about Byron Marshall or Langford or Brown? Which one would, or Langford, I should say, not Brown.
That's tough, man. Marshall, I like Marshall now. Like I wasn't sold on him, and I watched the. Oh, I didn't watch the game. I watched like the game. I don't get the Pac-12 network, so I watched the little game cast, and like Byron Marshall was going for like 10, 15 yards every catch, at least. So if they're using him in the passing game, that's easy points, especially in elite. I think it's what point per reception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that's hard to pass up.
I want Langford, I think, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's coming off the injury. What was the injury that he's already been okayed with? But what was the? Did anybody remember what the banged up injury was?
I don't think it was much of a.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. Yeah, Jacksonville State really didn't pose a problem. And honestly, you couldn't get a good grasp on what Michigan State, like how good he was looking in the first game because they just threw from the beginning, and Jacksonville State was terrible from the beginning, so they were up, and then they just took him out once he had that little nick. He did end with 57 yards, 4.4 yards per carry, no touchdowns. I think I would like Marshall over Langford. Like I know Michigan State's defense is good, but I saw some lanes open in the middle for Jacksonville State, like because I watched it because my parents watch it. I'm sorry, my roommates watch it. So I am subjected to terrible football at times. And man, I think Byron Marshall, if he's playing the slot receiver, which he should be, then he could find some lanes, man, and hit a big one.
I mean, that's where I'd go. I think the receptions are just that's automatic points.
Yeah. All right. So receivers in this game, I don't really see any receivers I would think of at all in this BYU Texas game.
I think it's got to be a BYU guy.
Yeah, Leslie at 5Gs is interesting if you're taking a lot of top guys like that. I'm fine with that value. Like there's not that many 5K guys that are. If you're down to like one of your final picks and you need to fill it with someone that's going to get you points, I think for 5Gs Leslie's not bad.
I mean, Mitch Matthews he's at 9.6. That's not bad. I watched that game against UConn. They fed him the ball quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if it was only for 4 or 5 yards, he was the true possession guy. And
he had a terrible fumble too, and just kept going to him.
Yeah.
So that's good to say.
What about is Ross Poe coming back from this one?
I avoid him forever. Like don't ever even look at him. He's kind of like what's that guy that Cody Hoffman? He was so hit or miss that it was like you had to get totally lucky that he even caught a pass. But when he did catch a pass, he'd catch like 8 for 180 yards. So I would avoid him. I can't put any stock in him.
So Mitch Matthews really the only guy in this one. Jackson Shipley is not an option, especially with Tyrone Swoops at quarterback, correct? Really quick.
I would.
Yeah, I can't imagine Jackson Shipley having a good game. Michigan State, Oregon. Moving to this one, we kind of already talked about Mariota being a solid play here. You know, obviously with the high salary, we would go Mariota over Taysom Hill. But I think Connor Cook at 16.6K is a solid pick if you don't get Mariota. Like, I'm not a huge Connor Cook fan. I think that, sure, he had that one sweet pass for the touchdown.
Okay, you can come on board. The water's warm. Connor Cook's great. There's plenty of
Stop it right now. What has Connor Cook done in his college career that makes him?
He beat Ohio State and Stanford. I mean, he gets better every single game. Like, I'm a believer, man.
Dude, stop it. Did you watch the game last week against
No, my roommates weren't watching it.
They played for you.
Here's the good thing though about Connor Cook. If Langford does get going, that play action pass is going to be wide open against that Oregon secondary.
Yeah, but also the thing is, if it gets going, they won't ever pass.
No, I don't think we're in Stone Age Michigan State anymore. I think they trust Cook.
Yeah.
And
they made that clear last week. I know it was Jacksonville State, but they did not let him throw throw. I think they're preparing for Oregon. That was like a scrimmage for what they're going to try to do with Oregon.
I don't know, man. He has 2 career games of over 300 yards. And
Who were they against?
Ohio State and Stanford. Ohio State's defense, though, wasn't good. Devin Gardner tore up Ohio State.
Okay.
But, I mean, I still think he's a solid value, but, like, I'm not going to go crazy on him.
Well, you're not going to take Mariota and Cook. So if you're taking Cook, you're probably going to take a guy that's like Everett Golson. No, yeah, maybe even as high as Everett Golson, like Cody Kessler maybe. Or even Kevin Hogan. That's probably the better pick. But you're not going to take a guy like Taysom Hill and Connor Cook.
No, there's no way.
Yeah,
but you could fit Gardner and Cook into one lineup probably.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I agree. All right, so running back-wise, other than those 2 studs, Thomas, Tyner, Royce Freeman, which one do you think has more value? And maybe Freeman because he's a little bit cheaper than Tyner? Or what? Here's Zach.
It's tough because I watched, like I said, the game cast of the Oregon-South Dakota game, and Tyner got his touches first. And, I think once Oregon kind of got going, they kind of pulled back on Tyner and kind of put in Freeman. So I think Tyner's going to be the number 1 running back because I think Marshall will be in the slot, and Freeman will kind of just be he'll just kind of spell Tyner. So I think Tyner's going to get a majority of the touches.
I don't think either of them is a preferred pick though.
No, that's kind of how I'm thinking too. Like if you're going to pick one, I'm going to pick Tyner. Yeah,
but considering the other guys who are at that position at that relative value, like I think there's a lot of other guys I'd rather have in the slate.
All right, so
and that's mostly just because Michigan State, so their ability to defend and run is pretty much top in the country.
Yeah, I'm with you. I didn't think really Freeman had any chance. Tyner possibly, but Tyner really, like you said, I like Marshall just because of the fact that he's going to be playing some receiver.
Yep.
If he was strictly just a running back tomorrow, I wouldn't pick him.
Agreed. I think that you said it perfectly.
Yeah, the fact that he does both is what makes him enticing. Receiver-wise in this game, Tony Lippett, and then who on Oregon besides Byron Marshall, who's listed as a runner? Is there anybody from like Oregon we can count on, especially against a defensive back group that's honestly pretty scary, even though they lost Denard last season?
No, I think that what you're going to have to do if you're going to take an Oregon receiver is go cheap, and just because I think they spread it out so much, they're not going to have a guy with 7, 8, 9 catches. They're going to have 4 or 5 guys with 3 or 4 catches. So you're going to kind of just have to, in my opinion, I would go somebody like Darren Carrington at 7K, as opposed to Keenan Lowe at 8. I mean, he's only 8'3", but still, I think
more.
Right. I think you're not going to see much difference between these guys. I think Marshall's their best receiver right now because Braylon Addison's out for the season, so they're kind of trying to make up for him with, I guess, a committee. I guess don't really talk about receivers by committee, but I think how they're doing
it. Yeah, and that's kind of like how Michigan State is. Byron Marshall's the receiver I would want from Oregon. And Tony Lippett's the only guy I would consider from Michigan State. The rest of them really, I know it was against Jacksonville State and they only threw 13 times, but the fact that all these different dudes got catches is kind of scary. Like McGarrett Kings, Mumphrey, and then the rest of the guys, D'Anthony Arnett, all these guys got like 1 catch each. So kind of scary to think about other receivers other than Tony Lippett. Is Tony Lippett a guy you would consider even though he's at 13.4, which is kind of weird for a Michigan State receiver?
Yeah, I don't know but here's the thing. We like Connor Cook, and he's his main guy. So I think if you're going to roll Connor Cook, and you got faith in Connor Cook, Tony Lippett's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I think if you have faith in Connor Cook, then you have to have faith in Lippett because that's the guy that would do the damage. Which, well, I think so.
If you're going all in on Connor Cook, you got to go all in on Tony Lippett, I feel like.
And honestly, for a number 1 receiver, if you're confident in a quarterback, that Tony Lippett's 13K is not too bad for a number 1 receiver.
Right.
Andrew, what are your thoughts on this next game, Michigan and Notre Dame? Quarterbacks seem to be kind of enticing, even though I think it's probably going to be easy which one we all pick here. And then, a stud receiver in Devin Funchess. What are your thoughts on this game, Andrew?
Yeah, man. I expect the game to be pretty high scoring, so there's gonna be some good fantasy value, and or maybe not value, but I mean, Funches is probably the top receiver in the entire slate, right? I think, can we agree on that?
Yeah, I love Funchess tomorrow, man.
Yeah, he's awesome. I expect a good game from Gardner. Granted, he is pretty pricey as the third most pricey person in the entire slate, but Golson's pretty much the exact same price. I didn't watch any of Golson last week, but I mean he put up great numbers. Granted, it was against Rice. I think we all like Gardner more though, right? Yeah.
Man, it's tough. Like, I can't decide who I like more. I think I'd probably lean Gardner, but it would be barely.
I think I'm going Gardner for the sole reason that he has Funchess.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the only reason why I wrote him up. Is because I think he's gonna have a great year this year because he has a number one dude that just last year Jeremy Gallon was his number one, and no offense to Jeremy Gallon, that's not like a number one receiver. Like Tyler Boyd's a number one receiver. A guy that can catch anything. Devin Funchess
is an NFL talent.
He's the first overall pick next year.
Think so?
No, not at all.
Oh,
but,
I was like, wow.
But that guy is gonna be awesome, and the fact that he is wearing number one, takes me to another place. If you know what I'm saying, it just gets me a little bit juiced there. But yeah, I think Funchess, I think Gardner, those are great plays, and honestly, I think Golston's a solid play too. I'd rank Gardner over Golston, but I still think that's a solid option. 3 touchdowns on the ground. You're not going to see that every time, but
I don't think we can trust any. I don't think we can trust any Notre Dame running backs, though, right? They're just going to go pretty much committee.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust any of those guys, which is why I think that you can kind of look at it and say 1 or 2 touchdowns for him on the ground. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And honestly, Michigan's defense is pretty solid, but it's always been pretty solid because they, just straight own some of these Big Ten schools. So I think the numbers are a little skewed.
What do we think of Derek Green tomorrow?
I think, well, you go
9,100. That's not bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say De'Veon Smith, but I mean he's only 8,300, so you could actually probably take both.
It felt like Green was getting more carries when the game mattered last week, right?
Yeah, it's tough, man. I don't know.
They were listed as co-starters after spring practice, so they like De'Veon Smith.
He was actually the starter up until 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think I'd rock Derek Green over De'Veon, and I probably, oh man, Rice didn't do anything on the ground against Notre Dame. Not that we should take that much from that, but their starting running back ran 14 times for 33 yards, so that's not very good. No. I think I'd probably look elsewhere at running back position than Derek Green, although if it's toward the end and you need a guy at 9K, I wouldn't be against it.
I mean,
the running back I would target
this week.
What?
The top running backs aren't really going to cost you a ton this week, though.
Yeah, but I think so. There's a lot of running backs in this slate, but at the same time, there's so few receivers, so you're going to use your flexes for running backs. I think. So even though it's easy to say we like other running backs more than Green, you might be starting 4 running backs in the slate. So I think it's very important that you make sure you have a clear command of how you value running backs up to maybe 10 or 15 in this 10 to 12 in this slate, because you're going to be going pretty deep at that position.
So would you guys who would you roll? Would you roll Freeman, Derek Green, or maybe a Keenan Lowe?
I don't know, man. Freeman. You said Derek Green, Freeman, or Lowe?
Keenan Lowe, maybe even a Tyner if you're fine with spending an extra 3K.
I got Green, I think.
Yeah, I think he's gonna get a more steady dose of touches, I think, than Tyner and Freeman are.
He's not going against Michigan State defense, which is
Right.
pretty tough.
I mean, I think, like I said earlier, I think Mariota's going to win this game for Oregon, more so than the running game.
It's kind of crazy to think that like an Oregon offense, which is typically a team that you always like look at for picks, especially when they're like a 12K or 9K or 8K, is like our guys were like, yeah, give me that like big slow running back from Michigan game where Devin Gardner is probably going to do most of this going. It's kind of crazy that this matchup does that.
We've been burned on. We've seen this before where Oregon goes against these physical teams and they can't do that play where they just run it for 9 yards every single play and all of a sudden they've scored in a minute and a half.
Yeah, they run up to the line, run it again. I mean, like they run the same play 6 times in a row, and before you know it, they're down at the 2-yard line, and then Mariota does the read option and walks into the end zone. I mean, I think they're going to have to get their guys out on the space, and that's where I think they've got the advantage on Michigan State's defense.
All right, guys. I'm digging this so far. So going to USC here, I want to see your thoughts on. I wish he wasn't priced so high because I think this is an obvious answer. Javorius Allen against Stanford, 18.7K. Are you using him? Are you considering him? Drafting him? Zach, are you not?
Well, I'm considering him. I mean, 18K. It just depends on who I took as my quarterback. Like if I take Mariota, I don't think I can really take him and have anybody else worth any more than 10K.
So, yeah, because of what you said, Zach, basically, this situation kind of reminds me of the first slate of the year at Furley where J.J. was so highly priced, and he basically went undrafted in leagues, and so he was undrafted in the leagues I did, and when came to it, I actually ended up picking him up and dropping some other guys. So if you want Allen, I don't think you have to necessarily draft him with a high pick or draft him at all. I think that you could, at post-draft, if you can rework some value, find a way to fit him in, maybe turn one of your more expensive quarterbacks into Hogan or Cook, and then you can fit Allen in. But if you like him, I mean, granted, I haven't done any drafts yet on this slate actually, but I don't anticipate him going high just because the value's not necessarily there. How do you feel, Chris?
Yeah, I think the people are going to go. The people. Did I just do that? I think people are going to go for the quarterbacks for price, and then they're going to see a whole bunch of guys that they're not too sure on, and I don't know if they're going to go Javorius Allen that high. I don't. Honestly, I'm with you. I'm not going to pick him at all, actually. So if you really like him, you probably can wait till the end. Javorius Allen, to me, is a guy that like people are going to get sucked into on like a site like a DraftKings where he's underpriced because he's so low priced. But that Stanford defense straight owned him last year, and he was the starter.
Yeah, I mean, granted, he is great, but that defense does just suck the life out of the run game.
Exactly, and I just, 18K just really turns me off for him.
Yep.
I don't like anybody really in this USC offense. I mean, I think maybe a guy like a Juju Smith at 8K. And I guess, I mean, if you really want some exposure to this offense, Nelson Aguilar is 14K, and he's a stud. He's a legitimate stud. So for 14K, that's pretty cheap for a stud. But I think I'd rather look at a guy like Juju.
Yeah, the receivers seem so weak in this slate that if you have the cash to fit Aguilar, it's not really a question. He's probably the top receiver play outside of Funchess, I would say. So unless you're going value at receiver, he'd probably wind up on some of your teams, which I think I'm fine with that. I think he's great, and I have faith in Kessler. I think he's shown us a lot over the last 8 games or so he started.
Yeah, he certainly rocked the hell out of Fresno State last week.
Did they play again this week and make it 3 times in a place?
Jeez, it's a little greedy there. What about on the other side? Stanford's offense. Kevin Hogan's pretty cheap at 14K, and the fact that Stanford's typical like stud running back situation hasn't really, it's only 1 week, hasn't emerged yet. I think this is the time to use Kevin Hogan, if any. Don't you agree, Zach, or you think maybe Barry Sanders comes to life here?
Yeah, I think Hogan's a great play, especially at 14. USC wants to come out and run 150,000 plays on Stanford. And the best way to keep them from scoring is to pound the football like they normally do. But Hogan, he's a better quarterback than I ever given him credit for. Like, I was like, this guy's not any good. He just hands the ball off, and then he does the little play-action pass. But he makes plays. Every game, every big game that he's in, he makes plays, doesn't turn the ball over. And I think that's no different in this game. At home, I think he's good for at least 2, maybe even 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, so I think I'm sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
That being the case, how do you like Ty Montgomery relative to Funchess and Aguilar and Lippett?
What are they priced at? I mean, I think I go Funchess clearly.
Okay, what about after him?
Yep.
Because they're all relatively the same. I mean, price-wise.
So what makes it a tough question, Zach?
Yeah, I think I'm going Funchess. Montgomery over Aguilar, though.
Yep.
Okay. I can get on board with that.
Same here. I think Montgomery's ability they're going to give him the ball on the ground a little bit. You know, he's Stanford's #1 guy.
He's a playmaker, man.
He's a playmaker, yeah. Does USC have a shutdown corner like a Kendall Fuller?
I don't think so.
Nobody's got a Kendall Fuller, Zach. That's a trick question. So, yeah, is there anybody else here to even talk about this?
Yeah, I think we need to. I think it's worth addressing the running back situation a little further, specifically Sanders and Kelsey Young. Like, do we consider them? They're both cheap, and I mean that's for a good reason, I guess. They both saw, I think, 7 carries the other game in the first game, but I mean that was a blowout, so it's difficult to get too much of a read on that.
Yeah, I think I like them both. What are they priced at? I didn't really look at their price.
Like 7 G's, right?
Yeah, I mean,
high 8K and high 7K.
Yeah, I think they're both very good plays because I think they're involved in the passing game too. Like looking at the box score, every running back that played caught at least a pass, and so they like to involve them in all different ways. So, you know, Sanders and Young both kind of had the same exact lines basically. So, but I think Kelsey Young starts.
Agreed.
Kelsey Young starts.
Yeah.
Interesting, because the starter Martez Waller ran for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns against USC, which is pretty amazing considering Fresno State looked pretty bad.
Good point.
Is that a place where you should go for value? I mean, there's a lot of running backs. I would think that Kelsey Young is probably one of the least talked about guys that is going to get a lot of action.
He's actually a receiver on FanDuel this week, which I thought was interesting.
Of course, Andrew points that out.
Yeah, I like Kelsey Young. Definitely, he's just under 8K. So, if you take a guy like Mariota, you're going to look to try to save some money somewhere, and that's not a bad pick at all.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. Both him and Sanders. I wouldn't expect them to go high in the draft because there's a lot better running back values just in terms of expected points per dollar. But at the same time, these aren't guys that I would expect to be like extremely risky. Like I expect decent numbers from them. So if you go Mariota or Hill, it seems like they seem like pretty good plays.
Right. So last question before we get to this next slate. Would you roll Kelsey Young or Derek Green?
Good one.
I think I rolled Derek Green.
I do too.
Interesting. I did not see. I thought maybe. Is it because of the fact that Kelsey Young is going to be splitting some time with Barry Sanders?
Yeah, I think so more than anything.
All right.
I don't think we're going to see a Tyler Gaffney out of Stanford this year. Not saying that Derek Green's a Tyler Gaffney-like, but I think they've pretty much got like a clear 1-2 punch over there in Michigan.
All right, so do you want to move on to the next slate? We can probably roll 25, 30 minutes here and get this last 4 games, even though these are some crazy teams.
This slate's great, man.
Yes, it is.
For fantasy, this slate's going to be a lot more fun, I think. You're going to see some wild things happen.
All right, so first game, Colorado State, Boise State. Some interesting plays here. Cartwright is going to be out for this one again, so I think Garrett Grayson's stock goes down a little bit. They don't, he's kind of gets one less target. That's pretty big target there. Offensively for Colorado State, I think really the only guy you can look at is D Hart, but the 16K and the fact that Ole Miss didn't really run it too well last week against Boise is kind of disheartening for a pick like D Hart at 16K. Zach, do you think that defense of Boise is going to be? I mean, Boise's defense played great for 3 quarters.
They're not going to do it again, man. They lost their starting defensive tackle to the season for an injury, so they're going to have trouble stopping the run this year, or the rest of the year, really, because I think they actually lost 2 defensive tackles to injury for the season. So they're going to be really thin on that line, and that was a strength coming into the season, and now they're just average. So and Colorado State ran for like 350 yards on Boise last year.
But was that with Capri Bibbs, or was that post or pre-Capri Bibbs?
I think it was everyone. Like the whole team just ran all over Boise last year.
Interesting. You have thoughts on D Hart? I think really D Hart's the only guy.
I like him a lot. I hate to say that because I'm a Boise guy, but I think D Hart could put up some good numbers. This could be a shootout, guys.
Really?
Yeah. On the blue turf, man, I still think that this game could go like 35-31.
So you're telling me you're all in on Grant Hedrick?
Oh, yeah. He's recovering from last week.
I can't tell if you're joking or serious.
Book it.
Book it.
Book it.
Book it. Are you being serious right now?
Yeah, I'm being serious. You want to know what his stat line was for the game against Colorado State last season?
Let's hear it.
Hold on, let me pull it up.
Oh, I thought you were ready for it. I mean, come on.
19 of 27, 305 yards, and 5 touchdowns.
Jesus.
No picks.
Yeah. Well, he had enough for both games. This past one, and last year's Colorado State game, and that last one against Ole Miss.
And I mean, honestly, I think Matt Miller and Shane Williams-Rhodes both have big games. Williams-Rhodes is, I think, the better pick, though, at 12K.
Grant Hedrick, 22K, though, man.
Yeah.
Can
I don't pick him. I just said I think he's going to have a good game.
What, Andrew?
So my first big takeaway from this slate is that it seems like the quarterbacks aren't priced nearly as high as they should be.
Yeah.
Like Davis Webb should be the first pick, without a doubt.
He should be like 29-30.
Yeah, definitely. So
yeah,
he's got to be the first guy off the board.
Davis Webb, to me, should easily be 26, 27K.
Yeah.
Is it because they're playing at UTEP? I mean, I don't know if that really matters, but like we watched Arizona last night. If that game's at AZ, that spread is not 7 points. I bet it's at least 13.
Don't question God, Zach. The prices are what they are. Let's move on.
Jeez. We just did that. Yeah, I think Davis Webb's the clear number one. I wouldn't really draft Hedrick, especially if you don't get Webb. Like, I cannot imagine picking Hedrick and not Webb when they're more. You know what I'm saying? We have some enticing quarterback, prices here. Matt Miller, I'm cool with. 17K is kind of rough, but the fact that he didn't get a whole lot last week doesn't scare me. I think they'll probably emphasize using him more. Williams-Rhodes was a PPR monster last week. Correct?
Correct.
He only had like 40 yards out of 14 catches, but that's against Ole Miss's defense. Like, I think if he gets 14 catches again, I think he actually had like 2 or 3 rushes too. So he touched the ball 16, 17 times. If he gets 16 or 17 touches against this defense, I think he could have a monster fantasy game. Yeah,
if he gets 15 touches against this team. But can he get 15 touches with Matt Miller getting, having a good game?
Yeah. I mean, they're the 2 receivers that they've got, man. Like, the third guy is Dallas Burrows, and he only comes in to run the deep ball. So they clearly want to run 2 wide receiver sets like 90% of the time.
That's good news for those 2. What about, is there anyone else on Colorado State?
I would have said Rashard Higgins, but after watching that game last week, like they had no interest in throwing him the ball until that one touchdown. That was his only catch, I think.
Yeah, not an overly promising development.
Yeah, like I was projecting him to go for like 6, 7 catches this game, and then he has one, and it really actually like won me my matchup on that slate because that one catch for like 12 yards and a touchdown I think put me over. But
Does Kevon Cartwright being out help him at all? I mean, it has to help him.
yeah, I mean he was
Did
questionable.
Kevon Cartwright play last week?
He did, but I think he was still kind of banged up. Like he was used sparingly.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I said that last week, and it ended up not helping him out too much, even though Cartwright played.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think he was full strength, like you said.
There's far more fun guys to talk about than these Colorado State guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Texas Tech, we've already discussed. Davis Webb should be your first pick in this draft. He's priced at least $67,000 cheaper than he should be in terms of what we think his potential is. His receivers are underpriced. I don't know if it's because they slid barely by Central Arkansas or what, but against UTEP, is there any reason to think they don't have a great game?
I don't care what their defense looks like.
No, I'm saying I don't know what I'm saying.
What I'm saying is if their defense is terrible, that's great for us.
Yeah, I don't know if I said defense or what I meant by defense. If I said
you said you struggled with Central Arkansas, so I figured you meant like just as a whole.
Yeah, I did mean as a whole. But anyway, yeah. So Texas Tech, just go, guys. I'm gonna go make another drink.
Andrew, go ahead.
I feel great about both Grant and Marquez considering their prices. Outside of them, it's tough to trust. I think they've got 2 guys named Davis, one named Lauderdale. They really spread it around, but like I think Marquez and Grant, especially considering that they're priced at I think it's like Grant is 11 and Marquez
is 11.
Take them both, man. If you could somehow swing both of those guys,
I would love to swing both of those.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Might be a businessman.
So, are we looking at the first 3 picks of this? Because it's almost like the perfect way to offset someone stealing Davis Webb from you. You just take his top 2 receivers. You know they're going to get tons of catches, so you're benefiting from the PPR. They're going to cost the same as Davis Webb total. You know, it's almost like a perfect way to just troll the other team.
I think you put it great. It's correct.
DeAndre Washington, any reason to think he has another good game? Like, that was weird for a Texas Tech running back to have a good game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. I mean, that's tough because, you know, we used to think of Texas Tech and they're just going to throw it 60 times a game. But, like, obviously they want to make an effort to run the ball. Yeah, granted, it was Central Arkansas, but they did, like you said, they struggled with Central Arkansas. So maybe they were – I didn't watch the game. I don't know how the game went down, but maybe they used that running game to maybe open up that passing game. And it just kind of – they were running with it because he kept breaking the carries for 6, 7 yards a pop.
All right.
And UTEP's not very good, so I wouldn't be shocked if he did it again, but we don't expect it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Aaron Jones on the other side is a solid player, but
not at $20K. I don't think. I don't know.
I was gonna say at $20K, it's. I mean, I would rather pick Ajayi than Aaron Jones, which, by the way, is the name of Baylor's kicker last season. Just as an FYI.
It was very good.
Speaking of kickers, did you hear who Pitt's kickers? What his name is?
Blew it, yeah.
Blew it. Is that like the worst name for a kicker?
It's up there.
It's got to be close. But, I mean, I was trying to look. I knew Aaron Jones had sweet numbers last week. Against New Mexico, he put up 237 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So, if he was priced cheaper, would you consider him, or is it more just because he's 21K?
I think at 21K, I think I'm gonna go ahead and just spend the extra $1,000 and get Ajayi.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm there.
And then I'm gonna go either that or I'm gonna take D Hart and save money there.
So you're in between there, in between. All right, so next game.
Early in the draft.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just skipped right over it. Is there anybody else from UTEP? Jameel Showers is 12 or 13K in a game that's going to make them pass a whole lot, but he's not really too talented, is he?
That's correct.
Thank you, Andrew, for being nice about it. And I don't see anybody else on this UTEP. I know they got to keep up with the Texas Tech, like in theory.
That being said, though, let's think about it. Hendrick and Webb are obviously owned. Mannion's at 20K.
At Hawaii.
I'm not touching Grayson at 19. Mannion it's tough. It makes the rest of the slate tough if you take him in one of those other top two. I'm not. Colby Kierkegaard's 5K on Wyoming, but he showed absolutely nothing in the last game. The Air Force guy showed absolutely nothing. So Showers has to be in play to some extent. So,
dude, Cale Pearson threw for 19 yards against Nicholls State. That's a real stat.
The vaunted Nicholls State day.
They have a basketball team, you know that. Just making sure everybody. Oh my God, they threw 6 passes.
But back to Showers, he has to be just consider the fact that this game is a potential shootout, and they'll have to throw. He has to be in play if you're going.
Does he? Does he have to be in play?
Who else are you considering? Garrett Grayson looked miserable in this game.
Yeah, I don't know. Man, dang it, Andrew. But did you see his stats last week against New Mexico?
I did.
But did you see Aaron Jones' stats last week against New Mexico?
That is true.
He's not going to run for 300 yards against Texas Tech.
I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen more. Like, is UTEP going to be behind so much that they just abandon the run? Or are they going to run it enough?
I don't think they have the personnel to do that. They let their best receivers playing for BYU.
That's a good point.
That's typically not good.
Yeah.
When that happens, you know you're in trouble.
Right.
So let's play out a situation. One of us gets Webb, the other gets Hendrick. Mannion's gone. What are you doing?
Let me look here.
I'm crying myself to sleep. Is probably what I'm doing. What about Ikeka Woolsey?
Good point. I forgot about him.
I think I'd rather.
I'm taking anybody from Hawaii. I'm taking Iosefa. Or Iosefa, however you say it.
Iosefa is a beast, but.
Here's why I say it. Let me back it up with some numbers here. Oregon State played Portland State last week and gave up 131 yards on 24 carries to Portland State. Now, Hawaii is a different animal at home than they are on the road. Can we agree with that?
We agree.
Yeah.
Hawaii, it's almost like Hawaii is a bowl team at home, and they're awful on the road. Like it's like night and day, and they're at home. So I like Iosefa like a lot. I
can go. I'd rather go Woolsey for almost the same price as Showers, but barely. Like I'm not talking like convincingly, but just barely. I mean, I think this is such a weird conversation we're having, but you almost have to have it because who's the fourth guy you would roll with?
I mean, the only other guy I would even consider maybe, and maybe not even this year now, like was that Kierkegaard from Wyoming?
Yeah, at 5Gs, man. Like, there's so much high-priced talent on this slate that if you want to try and load it up with some of that, he's the guy you got to get, right?
Yeah, like I just take Davis Webb and then maybe hold on for I guess Kierkegaard is his name.
Is that the quarterback for Wyoming?
Yeah. Kierkegaard.
Kierkegaard? I don't know.
Why haven't we just locked him in as the first pick of the draft then? 5K.
You want Webb, man. And he threw for 70 yards last week.
Showers threw for 110.
It's tough out there.
It's tough out there in Wyoming. That is insane. Oh my God! Is there negative rushing yards for quarterbacks? Because he had negative 40.
But But no, I mean, if you're going to get Davis Webb, save some money. If you want to load up on those running backs, even those receivers, I think he's worth a shot. Air Force isn't a defense that's going to just shut him down. So I think that's definitely a good option. In fact, I think that's what I would do.
So you go Kierkegaard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tricky, though. When do you take him? Because if you miss on him...
It's tricky, though, you say that, because it depends on what that other guy does. Like today in my final draft that I had, completely...
Well, go ahead and brag.
Yeah, like we haven't heard enough about it, Zach.
No, like I'm really upset with my draft today. I really am.
You want to switch spots? You can be at home crying about your second round loss.
Yeah, I'd hate to be up, guaranteed 1,500 back. Nice job covering for yourself. That way, if you lose, you're like, I was going to lose from the beginning. Like, I knew it. Like, I just knew I was losing. It was happening. All right, so I am, intrigued by this Air Force Wyoming game because of the fact of these stupid stats that I've been looking at from last week's game against really terrible teams. The highest priced player in this game is Cale Pearson at 10.6. Jacoby Owens ran for 7,000 yards last week, and he's only 8.7K. Like, he had 23 carries and everybody else had, 4, and there was 10 different people. So is Jacoby Owens, the dude to have in this game?
What about Wick? He's 5Gs, and he ran for over 100 yards last week.
Ooh.
This is he did run. And that other guy, DJ May, ran for some too, and he's 5K.
I think he got hurt though.
Did he?
Yeah, I think Wick actually might be a really good play this week. Now that you say that,
I think both of them are really good. I mean, I think probably Wick is the guy to have because he's cheaper by 4K. But Jacoby Owens, with the fact they had so many yardage on 23 carries.
This is a great slate. I think there's so many different ways you can go in this draft and still be happy with your team after you're done with it.
This slate screams complete degenerate, for real.
This is my kind of slate right here.
Zach, I was going to say, Zach, you need to go all in on this slate because there's no way anybody else knows players on this team. Oh, my God. All right, so I feel like we need to really break this down for the people that are watching because this is what people can benefit from watching us, talking about Air Force Wyoming, which is what our lives have come to. All right, so quarterback for Air Force is Cale Pearson. We don't like him for 10.6. Agreed.
Definitely.
All right, quarterback for Wyoming is Kierkegaard. He's 5,000. He's a punt guy. He's you get Webb, you want to get Ajayi, you want to get D. Hart, those guys, so you have to pick Kierkegaard, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. You're gonna have to.
You would consider him the fourth quarterback. You would rather go with Mannion or who's the other guy we were talking? Who's the second guy or third guy?
Woolsey or Showers?
No, Hedrick is the other guy I was thinking of. So if you can't get Hedrick, you can't get Mannion after picking Davis Webb, then Kierkegaard's the guy we would suggest. And then the running backs, Jacoby Owens at 8.7K, and then Sean Wick from Wyoming, 5K. Both guys that honestly I would pick pretty high.
Yeah, let me clarify this. I don't take Kierkegaard if I'm not going to try to load up on these receivers from Texas Tech or Ajayi. If you're going to go Davis Webb and then try to go with Ron Ward from Oregon State, or you know what I mean? I feel like if you're going to take Kierkegaard, you got to basically go all in and say, all right, I'm going to try to go high price on everyone else.
Yeah, but if I'm playing this slate and you get Davis Webb first, I might go Mannion and Hedrick, so you have to take Showers at 12K or be stupid and pick Pearson at 10K. You know what I'm saying? What happens if by the fourth overall pick in the draft, 3 quarterbacks are taken and there's no one else for you to take?
Right. Yeah.
That was more of my point. He's the fourth quarterback to be taken.
Here's the thing, though. Grayson's not a bad quarterback. We've seen it in the past. He's a good quarterback. So and maybe last week was a fluke. It was a rivalry game. Maybe they just kind of got into that running game and it was just working. And he has a good game this week. I think there's plenty of options where you can't really force somebody to take, Jameel Showers.
Right. Fair point. And
somebody's going to settle with Garrett Grayson.
That's not a terrible settle.
No, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you got Garrett Grayson and you're like, well, I didn't really want him, but he might be okay against Boise State this week.
All right, so I understand your point there. I feel you there. There's clearly no receivers to take in this Wyoming game, right? Clearly.
I know that. I think when I said DJ May got hurt, I want to say Jalen Claiborne got hurt as well for Wyoming, wide receiver.
How do you even know that?
Don't ask. But no, I think they might play. I think, receivers are tough to come by out in that game, especially for Air Force.
Well, they just don't even pass. They just don't pass.
Their best receiver got kicked off the team. So, he may have been their only receiver and he got kicked off the team.
I'm trying to find any tweets about DJ May.
Big news. Craycraft's not playing tonight.
Craycraft not playing tonight?
Shut the front door.
Yeah, it just came out.
Shut the front
Get him
door.
in your lineups if he's in.
So who's taking his place?
I don't know. I just retweeted the beat writer, but yeah. So hopefully nobody who's not watching the show doesn't know that. Gabe Marks is in full gear and is going through warm-ups. Who knows if he plays? But
Gabe Marks is in full gear now too.
Can I take it 5K instead of Kenyon Drake?
Oh my God, I would. What's the worst that happens?
Who is Craycraft in your Zach? Who is Craycraft in your matchup? Anybody?
Neither of us.
Oh, really? Wow.
But I have Halliday, Bailey, and Myers.
That's nice.
Do I go Marks and take the shot?
Go for the kill, dude.
At 5 Gs?
Kill shot. Turn the gun sideways. Kill shot.
5K too. And I know Kenyon Drake's going to play.
It's fair.
If I could see something that says Gabe Marks will start, I will pick him in a heartbeat.
Wow. Insane.
This is breaking. This is the biggest news to me, man.
Wow, this is awesome.
Luke TV just turned into Zach TV.
Zach TV. Oh, my God. All right, so I want to ask you guys something here, but I forget. Let's finish this slide up real quick, and then I want to ask you something about James Conner. All right, so Oregon State.
Researching right now.
All right, this is me and you time, Andrew. Oregon State at Hawaii. We've talked about Mannion, solid play. Not a great play, a solid play. 21K. We like Iosefa against Oregon State. Wolseley is. Go ahead.
Woods and Bolden are both good values in my opinion.
Yeah, I was going to say Bolden is a great value at 6.3K. Woods is a very good value at 11.6. Zach mentioned Toronto. Split running back situation right now.
Woods seems like he's getting most of the carries now.
Yeah, Ward had 10 carries for 38 yards. Not too impressive. Storm Woods is the guy there.
Hey, Ward caught 4 passes out of the backfield last week for 53 yards.
You know what? Jeez. Even on your break time, Zach, you're killing it with this stuff for us.
Okay.
Victor Bolden had 6 carries for 41 yards. That's nice. Richard Mullaney at 9K receiver, 5 catches, 55 yards last week. What are your thoughts on?
Give me Bolden over him, no question.
You got more potential with Bolden than you do with Mullaney.
Agreed. There's tons of value in this slate. I don't know if I see myself in a situation where I'm dropping 22 Gs on a J, 20 on Aaron Jones, 17 on Miller. I'm loving a lot of the guys in the like six to 13 range. I don't know. What's your overall takeaway on this slate, Chris?
On the overall slate,
Yeah, just if we sat down for an elite draft now, how
uh,
would you feel
I
about
think
it?
I think it all starts with getting Webb. Let's say, and then if you don't get Webb, you get the two receivers he has.
Yeah.
And then I'm loading up on these 11, 12K guys, Storm Woods, uh, guys like Marquez and Grant, who I just talked about.
That
Maybe,
the Air Force and Wyoming running backs like
yeah,
great. Victor Bolden, Storm Woods. Just
just yeah.
so,
And then this would be like the perfect game to have a 30K quarterback because
I know.
you could totally afford it with all these guys that are cheap. Is
I
my point.
agree.
D Hard at 16K, Miller at 17K, Williams Rhodes at 12K. A lot of guys in that like 11 to 16 and then 5 to 8 range that are really, really enticing. But yeah, I think it all starts with Texas Tech at the top. As much as that seems like so basic to say, I think you have to. The draft all starts with getting Webb and then those two receivers. So those should be the first three picks, in my opinion.
I agree, but at 4-5, you're looking nice too with Sean Wick sitting there, and there's a lot of other good values too. I think Wick's got to be a top 5 pick at 5Gs. That's too good.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that, how I said the first three picks. I wouldn't mind if you picked like Marquez and then you went with like Wick, or if you went like Owens from Air Force.
Yeah.
How about this? How about you would go? Let me look at the slate real quick. I've been busy on mine, but hold on. Let's say you went as your running backs, Iosifah and Wick. I mean I think that's solid, man. Iosifah's going to get 25 to 30 touches in that game.
Huh.
I think
and you're not going to have to spend the money that you spend on a Jai.
But depending on how your draft goes, if both teams follow strategies how we think they would, I think it's possible that you can get Hedrick and Webb, assuming the second pick isn't Hedrick, and you can fill out a good team. You're not taking complete bums with the rest of your picks. So if you can do that, if you can get Hedrick and Webb, it gives you such a huge advantage. So that if the first pick is, I don't think it's always a huge edge in elite, but I think this time it is just because if you get Webb, that puts so much pressure on your opponent. If you think you have enough value plays where you can also squeeze in Hedrick and then you pop him, and then your opponent's thinking, oh my God, how am I going to combat those starting quarterbacks considering what else is there?
Hey, I should have mentioned this earlier, but Colorado State has another running back, Treyas Gerald. He's 10K, and he might be a good play this week, man. I didn't even think about it, but I remember watching that game last week. It didn't matter who was in it running back for Colorado State. They just ran the football.
Interesting.
Dude, I'm sweating bullets over here right now. It is unbelievable.
Me too. I'm trying to figure out if Gabe Marks is going to play.
Sweating for different reasons, but all right. Anyways, I think we covered it all, man. Real quick, which one do you think is your favorite slate? The games that are like sweet, like in terms of like just matchups, like the Michigan State, Oregon game slate, or is it the slate that has the most ridiculous teams that we're talking about, dudes that 99.9% of the country has never heard of?
The late slate will be my favorite slate if I get Davis Webb. If I don't, I will be very upset.
Well, you know my opinion on that question. I want the late slate because I think there's a lot more. I think there's a lot more certainty with production. I think when you're looking at a game in the primetime games, like looking at USC Stanford, like that may be a lower scoring game than we want as a fantasy or daily fantasy guy. So you know, I think these games at night, they're not going to disappoint. You got Colorado State, Boise, Texas Tech, and UTEP, Oregon State, Hawaii. I mean, these could be a lot of points scored in these games. And I think I could almost go on record and say that you could book it that all those games are going to score a bunch of points.
I agree, man. Seems like with that first slate, you might see like a third receiver being the difference or something, like a third receiver on one of the teams. Which is
think about the Michigan State Oregon game. That game could be really low scoring, or they both could just come and duke it out and be like back and forth, like 35-31. Like, I have no idea what to think of that game. I personally think they're going to score some points, but you never know.
Man.
That's my input.
I love it, dude. I'm leaning towards this second slate. Honestly, if I can get out of work at like 5:30, I have to kill time for about an hour, and I will be drafting Fantasy Elite teams while I'm eating a burrito at Chipotle. That's my game plan. That's my go-to game plan. Then go watch the games, and then maybe sit at a bar at the end of the night and watch Air Force Wyoming. Like, is that a perfect world or what?
That's wonderful.
Oh my God. We talked about Wyoming players today. I'm still kind of confused about that, but anyways. All right, guys. Are we good? I feel good, man. I feel pretty confident about this.
Agreed.
I went from like 80% confident to 147% confident in the span of an hour and 6 minutes.
Nice.
All right, so if we're all good here, we'll be back on Wednesday. Actually, you guys will be back on Wednesday. I have been called into work Wednesday night somehow. Couldn't get it off, so I'll have to teach one. You guys, you know how to use Hangouts, correct?
Never done it before in my life.
What do you use on your site?
I'm joking.
Oh, okay. I'll have to have you guys all set up and figure that all out. Well, it'll be easy. But anyways, Wednesday night, I believe Zach and Andrew hopefully will be there if you guys need help. And Grant is always trying to get on this show. Appreciate you guys coming on. Make sure you guys check out Fantasy Elite. Obviously, every pricing we did today was based off of Fantasy Elite. Zach is going to be winning the championship tonight in Fantasy Elite. Don't let him play it down at all. All right. But we'll be back on Wednesday, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. Good luck on Saturday night.